Here's a quick tutorial on how to make gut-friendly meat stock. Here's what you need: chicken, some carrots, onion perhaps, salt, apple cider vinegar, filtered water, and your big old stock pot. But all you really need is chicken and water for this recipe. And if you don't have a giant 30-quart stock pot like us, you can just use the biggest stock pot you have and just use one chicken. Add your chicken to the stock pot and make sure you take the organs out. If your pot is large enough, you can add more than one chicken. Just make sure the pot isn't too overcrowded. So the difference between meat stock and bone broth is that meat stock uses something like a chicken or a cut of meat that has more meat than bone. Bone broth is the opposite, more bone than meat. Meat stock is lower histamine than bone broth. Meat stock is easier on the digestive system, so that's why we're doing meat stock. Meat stock is generally cooked for 2 to 3 hours, whereas bone broth is cooked much longer. Now pour filtered water over the chicken until it's completely covered. Filtered or spring water is important to keep the broth clean and free of unnecessary additives. So let's talk about stock pot size. Like I said, we have a 30-quart stock pot, which is maybe a little overkill, but we found it's nice to just make giant batches. And I mean, honestly, we could probably fit 6 chickens in here. But I'm thinking if it's just you, probably 10 to 20 quarts would be sufficient. And for 2 people, probably 20 quarts is a great size. They've got these stainless steel stock pots on Amazon. I'm putting the vegetables in now, but I would actually hold off on this until the water starts boiling later, and I'll tell you why in a bit. But feel free to put the salt in at this point. You can also put your apple cider vinegar in. I typically just put a small splash in there. You don't need much. We will now turn the stove top to high heat, cover, and closely monitor because you don't want your stock to overflow here. So we're at about 22 minutes of this giant stock pot being at full heat. For you, it may be more like 10 or 15 minutes if you're doing a smaller batch. And as the stock heats up, you'll notice this foam forming on the surface. And the foam's made up of denatured proteins and impurities that naturally rise as the chicken begins to cook. So as you can see here, I'm skimming the foam off, and I'll be monitoring the stock for the next 10 minutes or so. I think every 5 or 6 minutes, actually, I'll be skimming. And don't have to be too obsessive about this, but do try to get the foam off the top with a spoon. You can also use some sort of little filter skimming device, just whatever works here. And here we are about 5 to 6 minutes later, just doing a second round of skimming. And I like to take these moments where I'm doing these repetitive tasks to just be mindful and focus on what I'm doing. It's just a simple thing, and it's the simple things that can bring us a lot of joy, so that's nice. So this is about 5 minutes later, about half an hour in now, and just doing some final skimming here, and it's pretty much at a boil. So we're just going to let it boil completely. You can see it's boiling, and then we're going to bring it down to simmer. Natalie and I are big on slow food in this world of speed, of fast food, of the foods of modern commerce that really poison our bodies. Doing practices like this, making meat stock, just really help us connect with our food, and it's just overall a win for our health and the planet's health. And so, yeah, now I'm turning it down to a simmer, and I'm going to put a timer on for right around 2 hours here. So there we go, 2 hours. So it's been 2 hours here, and I'm going to let it cool for about an hour, and then I'm going to take the chickens out. You just use some spatulas, whatever you can, so you don't burn yourself, or you can just use your hands if it's cool enough at this point. And you're just going to put them into a big mixing bowl like I am here, or some sort of pot. And so now we're going to take the broth and pour it into smaller stock pots. And the reason we do this is it just saves a step. We're going to make a bunch of soups this week and eat all of this. So we're just going to strain it here and pour it into our two biggest stock pots, and then I will make a soup with one of them, and the other one we'll just put right in the fridge. Once we get tired of eating the first soup we made, we'll just make our second soup and start eating that throughout the week. And we find that the meat stock stays good for definitely a week. If you store it in mason jars and some fat forms on the top, that can extend the life to even 10 days. So there's a little extra meat stock here. I'll put it in a mason jar. And alternatively, if you don't want to put them in your stock pot for to free up space in your fridge, you can just pour it all into quart and or 2 quart mason jars. Look how good this looks. Meat stock is the cornerstone of the GAPS diet, gut and psychology syndrome diet, and it has been one of the more healing foods for the two of us, and I'm sure it will be for you too. So the final step here is to just grab a bag, old salt bag in our case, and to put the bones in. And we're just going to, debone the chicken here. Make sure you wait until the chicken cools off. This chicken was very hot and was burning my hands, but I wanted to finish this video, and so, no pain, no gain, as they say. So debone the chicken and just put it into some Tupperware. That's typically what we do. And then we'll add the chicken to our soups. We'll do chicken salads. It's awesome to have 3 whole chickens worth of meat, and it's a affordable option too when you're buying a whole chicken versus the breast. It's a lot more economical. Make sure to eat the sternum and the collagen bits along the joints for your health here. Well, if you've got any questions or if you're loving this recipe, you've tried it out, please leave us a comment below. And if you've watched this video this long, you're committed to making this meat stock. It is a process just like our health healing journey is. So stay with it. Each small step you make for your health does make a difference.